What is going on tonight, you guys? It is Wednesday night. We are live before Week 11 fantasy football tonight, answering fantasy football questions, guys. I usually do this every Wednesday night. I was off last week on Wednesday night, moving into the beautiful new studio, which, by the way, for those of you who have been enjoying the new studio, I appreciate it. I'm glad you guys are enjoying it because a lot of time went into this, a lot of time from my fiance and her family. So, they did a great job, obviously, getting this beautiful sign hung up right here. So it's been a great week, and I'm glad that we are in the new studio now, guys, because here's the thing. We're going all in on the FFN brand, guys. And that's why I have to thank y'all for getting me to 7,500 subscribers on this channel. We started out the season right around 3,000. So the channel's grown quite a bit, and just trying to grow it. Continue to grow this channel, guys, because I love you guys. I love connecting with the community, and I'm so happy that y'all are here on Wednesday night. And guys, here's what we're going to do. At 9 p.m. Central sharp, we're going to give away a free FFN white hat live on air to one of you guys. All you need to do to qualify to get one of these is go down there, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and go ahead and comment something. And I will randomly choose a winner at 9 o'clock Central sharp, which is in about 30 minutes. So let's go ahead and just start answering some questions right now from you guys. So, Dominic, what's going on? You were the first question up here. So you had Javonte Williams, James Conner, or Isaiah Pacheco. So if we're only choosing one, I'm going to go with Pacheco. And so here's the thing. I like all of these guys. Javonte Williams moved up significantly in my rankings today. If you have not watched the running back rankings video that I put out earlier today, make sure to go back and watch that after this live stream tonight, because I go through the top 30 running backs like I do every single week. And Javonte Williams is taking a bump up. Here's the reality with Javonte. I'm not wild on the Broncos offense as a whole still. I'm really not. I think that they definitely do have a ceiling. Now, does that mean that Javonte can't have a, good fantasy upside week? No, it doesn't mean that, because obviously he had one against the Chiefs defense a couple weeks ago. I think that, honestly, Javonte Williams is going to continue to be impressive, because the thing I was impressed with Javonte Williams is that he's on an offense that I don't think is that high upside, but he's had 2 straight weeks with 25 plus touches. Now, this particular week for Denver, I don't think it's going to be, Javonte Williams, like I said, I think the ceiling is there. Now, with Isaiah Pacheco, with James Conner's the type of guy that came right back in from being on the IR and immediately got 18 or 16 carries again. I've got no issue with his workload. He's got no workload issues that I'm concerned about in the slightest. And then obviously, Isaiah Pacheco is the guy that gets 13 carries and then 3 targets per game. So right around 16 opportunities per game, but he's in the best offense. And the matchup versus the Eagles, super high upside of scoring. And Isaiah Pacheco, I've been saying this for weeks, Isaiah Pacheco is the number 2 weapon in Kansas City. It goes Travis Kelce, and then it goes Isaiah Pacheco. Those are the 2 guys that, in order of importance in this offense, it goes. So Isaiah Pacheco, to me, with the matchup upside with Philadelphia, not that Philadelphia is an easy defense, I just think points are going to be fine. Super Bowl rematch, both of these teams are at the top of the conference, at the top of their own respective conferences. I got to go with Isaiah Pacheco in this type of matchup. Ben Kinley. Maybe I got that one right. Let me know if I butchered that. Mixon or Breece Hall? Yeah, this is a pretty close one. So Breece Hall, I've been saying this. I said this on today's video, which is that there's a lot of issues I have with Breece Hall that are just offense related. There's nothing wrong with the player. Everybody knows that the player himself is extremely high upside. He's an extremely high upside player. The problem is that the offense stinks. It stinks really bad. So there's always going to be a cap on a guy like Breece Hall. And going against the Bills this week, who the Bills are in shambles, by the way, honestly, the matchup doesn't bother me. It really doesn't. The matchup is just whatever. The Buffalo Bills, when they get better on defense, maybe we'll start to think more about it, but I'm not bothered by the matchup, especially. And when it comes to Joe Mixon playing on Thursday night against the Ravens, on paper, like that's not a good matchup. Divisional matchups are always different. And, being that the game is in Cincinnati, and there's a lot of things I like about Joe Mixon and the fact that he's scored the past 3 games. So they were very close to me in my rankings this week, but I will end up going with Breece Hall because I do think that with the big play upside and the matchup, I actually think is a little bit better than the Ravens matchup. To be honest with you, I'll go ahead and make that decision. Hugo Gauthier, appreciate the super chat. Would you trade Addison and Kupp for Justin Jefferson? Also, Conklin, Mayer, or Otton this week? All right, so this is a 2-part question. We'll go through the first part, which is Addison and Kupp for Justin Jefferson. So the thing about Jordan Addison is that this is a player I really like. And for those of you who play Dynasty Fantasy Football and were with me over the offseason, you'll know that I was big on Jordan Addison, and I was consistently higher on Jordan Addison than other Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTubers were. I stuck my ground. I said he's a better receiver than Quentin Johnston, even after the Combine. The Combine doesn't mean jack squat, really, at the end of the day. So, especially for wide receivers. So, Jordan Addison, I really like the player. The problem that I do see coming, and it's so funny, I'm going to say this because I realize I continue to doubt Josh Dobbs, but I just see that there will be a drop-off in production from Jordan Addison because Justin Jefferson looks like he may be coming back this week. So that might be like a situation where it's like, this guy's already coming back. And we all know that Justin Jefferson is obviously the wide receiver 1. How likely is it that Josh Dobbs can support 2 wide receivers in fantasy football with the ceiling that Kirk Cousins provided him? I don't think it's as likely because Josh Dobbs isn't throwing for 300 plus, 400 plus yard games like Kirk Cousins was. That's just not what Josh Dobbs is. Josh Dobbs is throwing for 200, 250, maybe pushing 280. You know what I mean? Like he's not a starting quarterback. He's a very good backup and he's very smart. But I don't think that the upside is really there with a guy like Jordan Addison for much longer. And then Cooper Kupp I think Cooper Kupp's going to rebound to have some good games. But at the end of the day, Justin Jefferson's the guy I want here because he demands targets. He demands work because he's great. I think Josh Dobbs is going to get the ball to Justin Jefferson plenty. And Cooper Kupp right now with Matt Stafford and the direction the Rams are going, I'm not super confident in Kupp as much as I am in Justin Jefferson. So, yes, I would do that deal. And then the second part of the question was Conklin, Mayer, or Otton this week. So, yeah, I'll have my tight end rankings video coming out tomorrow. But none of these guys are in the top 12. I have my top 12 tight end rankings coming out tomorrow. And, the thing about all these guys is that they all have a relatively decent amount of upside, I would say. I think that, a guy like Cade Otton has more upside than Conklin because of the offense that Conklin's in, but I don't think that there's no floor really for any of these guys. Mayer's done nothing at a lot of points this year. Conklin has done nothing at a lot of points this year. And Otton has done nothing at a lot of points this year. There's no floor here with any of these guys. So really it's who can provide the most upside. And to me, Otton is the guy who could provide the most upside. Mayer is getting better and he's getting more important in the offense. And that's a good thing for sure. The problem I have with Michael Mayer is that I don't think it's going to be consistent week to week just because Aiden O'Connell, again, good backup quarterback. He's already proving himself to be a good backup in the league. There's really not enough there for me to say that, again, like Josh Dobbs, I don't think he's going to be able to support more than one excellent fantasy pass-catching option on a weekly basis. So I would go with Cade Otton here because he really doesn't have the competition he's got competition for targets per se, but he doesn't have he doesn't have the quarterback deficiency quite as much. And I think Aiden O'Connell, like I said, I think he's a good backup, but Baker Mayfield has shown to get Cade Otton more involved up to this point than Michael Mayer. So I'll go Otton, and I would trade for JJ. But again, appreciate the super chat. So the next super chat we had up here was Kyle McBride, and I appreciate the super chat. Rodgers and 25 late first for Saquon or Saquon Barkley 10-team PPR Superflex League. So obviously, if I'm not mistaken, this is a dynasty league, right? This is a dynasty league, and I want to make sure that it is a dynasty league because that will definitely affect my answer on this one. Because when I'm looking at a guy like Aaron Rodgers, it's a situation where it's like, okay, it's dynasty. Okay, so that's good. So it's dynasty, and this is a situation where it's like you've got a 40-year-old quarterback basically coming off an Achilles tear. Now, on a side note, I'm a big Aaron Rodgers guy. I've really grown on him over the past several years. I think it would be incredible to watch him come back. Like, it would be super, super fun. Now, I do think that potential Garrett Wilson and Rodgers stack, yes, that's a great thing. But the reality is, I'm a little skeptical of the return of Aaron Rodgers, while admitting that like him walking and throwing the ball already is very impressive. I don't know how he's going to come back and play with this offensive line and with almost being 40. Like, the dude's going to be 40 next season. So like I just don't know how the play is going to be. We haven't really seen this guy play since 2022. You know what I mean? Like that's the problem here. Because we only saw him play, 2 snaps? You know what I mean? It's just not enough. So there's issues here with Rodgers for sure. A late first rounder in 2025. The good thing about this is, in dynasty terms, guys, for those of you who don't play Dynasty, what Dynasty is it's a form of fantasy football where instead of drafting every single year a new team, you draft once like a regular fantasy football league and redraft, but you have that team for life. Unless you make trades or you make cuts or, roster changes, you could do whatever. You're a dynasty owner. So the thing about 2025 and future draft picks is you truly don't know. Like, you can project it and you could say, like, this team's going to be great, but all it takes is a couple injuries. I mean, this happens every year in my dynasty leagues personally. So, for a guy like Saquon Barkley, I don't think it's getting better. That's the problem, is he's getting to that age where in dynasty, you want to start thinking about selling a guy like Saquon Barkley. If there was no first rounder in here, I would say no. But since there is a first rounder, I will go ahead and take this trade. But again, appreciate the super chat. The next super chat up here is D. Manini Sweener. Appreciate the super chat. Ryan, love the vids. Can I at you on Twitter with my question? So, great question. You can if you want to. I'll be brutally honest, though. Like, I am not super active on Twitter right now. And that will change at some point, but you have to understand I'm going all in on building the brand of Football Fanalyst Network through YouTube, because I do think it's a great way for me to connect with my audience and connect with the community. Whereas Twitter, to me, I do think since I can only write, so many characters, it's like, I don't like, you guys, if you hear me live stream every day, you understand that like the way I answer questions, there's no way it's going to fit in a tweet. Like, I like to give my audience the full time that you guys deserve to answer your questions very particularly, because I don't really think that you can just like, I don't think there's a one size fits all. And I like to discuss it with you guys. So you can feel free to do that. I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. If you do DM me on Twitter, I just can't promise that I'll get back to you. The best way to reach me, and again, if you're new here, like, I try to answer literally every single comment, literally every single one of them. I don't care who it's from. I try to answer as many comments as I possibly can. So if you just comment to me, I will answer your question in all likelihood. There will get to a point where when we get to a certain size, I won't be able to answer everybody, and then that's when we will have private private discords and private chats for that type of stuff. But right now, like, the best way to reach me right now is definitely to comment on a video or ask it right now while we're both here. So, but again, I appreciate the question. I appreciate the super chat. I try to be as available and accessible as possible to my audience. Trigger Trey, what's going on? You were the next up here. I appreciate the super chat. The question is, full PPR league, should I start Lamar or Tua? KW9 or Javonte, and Garrett Wilson, Marquise Brown, or Cooper Kupp, or Amari Cooper, I'm assuming, in the flex this week. Realistic trades I can make using KW9 and Cooper, looking for a wide receiver upgrade over running back. So, yeah, let's go through step by step. So, this week, I'm going to start Tua over Lamar because Lamar Jackson, I said this in my wide receiver rankings video, actually, my defense ranking video yesterday. What I said was that when it comes to Lamar Jackson, he does much worse consistently against divisional opponents. Why is that? Because unlike NFC teams who only get to see him once every couple years, division teams, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, they all get to see Lamar Jackson twice a year. They know exactly how to prepare for him. And if you look at the history, Lamar Jackson does much more poorly against divisional opponents than he does against NFC teams. So I'll go with Tua this week. I think against the Raiders, I think they're going to slice up the defense. And then Kenneth Walker or Javonte, great question. I got to go with Kenneth Walker. I think Javonte is a solid play this week. I really do. And in fact, I would personally put him in the flex over Garrett Wilson, Hollywood, and Amari Cooper. I would, because I think that Javonte Williams, you know, the thing about him is that 25 plus opportunities, 2 straight weeks now. And the offense consistently looks better over that time period as well. So I think the Broncos against the Vikings, like, I don't think it's a bad play to do that personally. So I would actually play Javonte in the flex instead of Hollywood Brown, Garrett Wilson, Amari Cooper. Now, when we're looking at the trade portion of this question, Kenneth Walker and Amari Cooper, if you wanted to package those two together, I understand that. Kenneth Walker is a guy that you could definitely get for, like, straight up, I believe you could get Kenneth Walker for a guy like Isaiah Pacheco, DeAndre Swift. Now, if you wait a week and you let him have another good week, I think you could get someone maybe close to the I'm going to play a scenario out. If Kenneth Walker has another fantastic week and Travis Etienne has another bad week, I think there's a world where you can get Travis Etienne for Kenneth Walker. And that might be straight up. I would wait for Kenneth Walker to have another good week because I think it's coming. This week against the Rams, I just don't see how he doesn't have a good game. So I would personally wait on this one because Amari Cooper, I understand the concern. Like, he just lost to Deshaun Watson. It didn't look good the first time around with Dorian Thompson-Robinson. If you want to package those two guys together, I would go for big air. Like, I would go for someone who could change the game for you. Someone like a David Montgomery. Someone like maybe, Jonathan Taylor plus a wide receiver too. Somebody like a Jahmyr Gibbs and maybe get a wide receiver too attached to that as well. That's what I would do personally. But again, appreciate the super chat. RJ Bacani, appreciate the super chat. 8-2 with Mahomes, Etienne, Walker, CeeDee Lamb, Kirk, McBride, Devonta, and Dustin Hopkins. Stroud, Achane, Monty, Ferg, Sharp, and Goff on the bench. Oh, wow. Very nice. Very nice. I can see why you're 8-2 for sure. What should I do for this week and for the playoffs? So this week, the way I would set this particular lineup is I would go with, it's so hard to bench CJ Stroud. Like, when I just took a glimpse at this chat right here, I was like, how are you benching CJ Stroud right now? Like, I would play him over so many guys right now. Obviously, I'm going to continue to play Mahomes over CJ Stroud. I would be a hypocrite if I told you to do that. I wouldn't personally do that. So I think that, a guy like CJ Stroud definitely has upside. Mahomes does too, and he's more consistent doing it. So I would go Mahomes this week for sure. I would definitely play Etienne. There's no way I'm sitting Etienne. And I would play Monty over Kenneth Walker. I think Montgomery, listen, like Kenneth Walker, I think that there's a much ado about not much with his workload concerns, to be honest with you guys. When you look at the situation in Seattle right now, it's like Kenneth Walker had 19 carries last week. And that was coming off like a 12-carry performance the week prior, and then he had like 9 carries the week prior to that. And both of those are explainable. The first week, it was an injury. That was an injury related. So that was why he didn't get that many carries. The second week before last week, they got blown out by the Ravens. So you're not going to see any running back. I don't care who you are. You're not going to see any running back get 20 opportunities. That's just not going to happen. So unless it's Saquon Barkley because he's the whole offense. But that's a different story. I think Kenneth Walker is a great, I think it's just a great play for sure. But Dave Montgomery, to me, the upside is just too high in Detroit's offense to have on your bench. I mean, you saw what he did last week. It was fantastic. And he got out-touched by Jahmyr Gibbs. They're both fantastic fantasy options. So got to go with Montgomery, especially against the Bears for sure. So ETN, Montgomery at the running back position. CD definitely, of course. And then your wide receivers. I would go Devonta Smith over CD this week. Or I'm sorry, over Christian Kirk this week. And then, yeah, I would put in Kenneth Walker above Christian Kirk. I think his upside is higher. I think it's just a higher situation. And it's hard to sit Achane too. I tell you what. It really is hard. The thing is, like, you've got so many options at running back. To me, what I'm looking at for your playoff situation, you're obviously going to get in. Like, there's no question that you're getting in the playoffs. For me personally, like, I'm looking at this situation and I'm like, I've got Walker, Etienne, Achane, and Montgomery, and it's like I hate putting one of them like on the bench. And especially two of them. So it's like, it's hard to, I know that it's hard to part with a great running back since there's not many in fantasy football. The truth is you've got 3, maybe 4 great ones. We'll see what happens with Achane. I think it's going to continue to be great. To be honest here, the guy I would want to send away is actually Kenneth Walker. And I know I called him a buy low trade target a couple weeks ago, and I stand by that because he was down bad. But the reality is that his playoff schedule is tough. And it's only getting tougher after this week. This is a really good opportunity for him to honestly, everybody listening live, if you have Kenneth Walker, I would advise selling him high after this particular week. That's what I would personally do. So definitely when I look at this situation, I would package together a guy like Kenneth Walker and, maybe a guy like either Jared Goff or CJ Stroud and go for massive upside at the wide receiver position. Because your wide receivers, like, I like them. CeeDee Lamb's obviously great, but past that, like, there's not special. You can get more special at wide receiver. I would package together Kenneth Walker with CJ Stroud personally, because I think Goff is a good backup. I would package those two guys together and go for a Jamar Chase. I would package them together, go for a Stephon Diggs. I would package them together, go for an Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's the type of move I'm making in your fantasy playoffs. And again, appreciate the super chat. So we're going in order, guys, of super chats right now. And right now, Samuel SZE, you are next up. Appreciate the super chat. Play Stroud or Goff. I also have Amon-Ra and Laporta. Yeah, here's the thing that I've realized when it comes to having 3 options in fantasy football. There's always a concern for people when it comes to, what if I have the same quarterback and running back? Should I play that quarterback? And it's like, when you play 2 guys, it doesn't bother me. And then obviously you want to do that with a quarterback and a tight end because you want that stack potential. When it comes to having 3 on the same team, I definitely do get worried because there definitely is a potential cap. And especially if all 3 of them don't hit, you're significantly limiting yourself. I got to play Stroud this week either way because CJ Stroud this week, taking on the Arizona Cardinals, I don't see a way where this is going to be a bad week for him. I just don't. I think that it's going to be another good week for him. And Goff this week against the Bears, like, no brainer. He's going to be a good play. But at this point, like, CJ Stroud is just not a guy that I think is, going to be a major threat. Or I'm sorry, Goff is not a guy that's going to be any much better than CJ Stroud. So I would go CJ Stroud here. Over Jared Goff to play with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Laporta. And again, I appreciate the super chat. So real quick, guys, gonna pause really quick because it is time to give away an FFN hat live on air right now because you guys got me to 7,500 subscribers. Now we're shooting for 10,000 subscribers, guys. But I have to show my appreciation. So go down there, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down there, and I'm going to randomly pick a hat winner right now, and then we will get back into answering questions, of course. We're just taking a quick break right now, and I'm answering, and then I'm going to answer the rest of the questions. All right, so we are going to go ahead. I'm going to close my eyes, and we are going to get it moving. All right. 3, 2, 1. Trigger Trey, you are the winner of the FFN hat right now. You have won this FFN hat right now. So what I want you to do, go right now, comment on my running back rankings video from today that you were the winner of the hat, and I will go ahead and send you my email address, and then I will send you your free hat. So congratulations, Trigger Trey, for winning the hat today. And guys, don't worry if you didn't win it. There's going to be a lot of hat giveaways for the next several weeks, honestly, guys. So we're going to go ahead and get back into answering questions. But please, guys, love interacting with you guys. So please like this live stream and subscribe to the channel to show your support. I really appreciate you guys. So let's go ahead and get back into answering questions. So Jonas Palumbo, appreciate the super chat. Hey, man, trade away Dak, Ayuk, and Javonte for Ja'Marr Chase. I have Stroud, Swift, Montgomery, Breece Hall, Kupp, Higgins, Dell, Rice, Downs, Myers, Laporta, and 3-7. Wow. This is a talented team to be 3-7. Yeah, that's a little shocking, to be honest with you. When I look at this team, Dak Prescott's obviously slicing and dicing right now. And it's hard to convince yourself to send away a guy like Dak, but CJ Stroud's doing basically the exact same thing. So I really like the upside here with CJ Stroud and with Dak Prescott. So it doesn't bother me to get rid of one of them, to be honest with you. Now, I'll be honest, I typically carry 2 quarterbacks, but the reality is if you've got 2 great quarterbacks, that's trade leverage right there. So I would advise doing a deal involving one of them, and I would prefer to send Dak personally because Houston's schedule is easier. When I look at Ayuk, it's a wide receiver 2 with pretty high upside, but not on a weekly basis. It's matchup dependent. It's hard to tell sometimes. Sort of an Amari Cooper predicament without the low floor. That's kind of what Brandon Ayuk is. And Javonte Williams, definitely on the rise for sure. I would actually kind of like to see how it plays out. But when you're getting a guy like Ja'Marr Chase and you've got 3 great running backs here, it's a situation where I have to take it. I have to take Ja'Marr Chase. The upside is just tremendous. And you don't really have a stable wide receiver right now. Like Cooper Kupp, obvious wide receiver 1 upside. But there's a lot of uncertainty with Cooper Kupp right now. So to pair him together with Ja'Marr Chase, that's a no-brainer to me. That's what I would do. And again, appreciate the super chat. Prime 8 plays. I appreciate the super chat. Who are my most sellable before the trade deadline? 10-team half PPR, 7-3. Allen, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Breece Hall, Devon Achane, Montgomery, CeeDee, Puka, Collins, Noah Brown, Laporta, McBride, Ferguson. So, yeah, here's what I would do in this particular situation. When I look at a situation like this, and you're asking who your most sellable is, and you're 7-3. So, again, you're in a situation to one of the questions I just answered, which is you're basically a lock for your playoffs. There's no way that you're not getting in. And so when I see a team like this, it's like you've obviously got 2 top 3 running backs in fantasy with Christian McCaffrey and Eckler. You've also got a running back, Breece Hall, who has the potential to finish as the running back 1 any week, but he doesn't do it consistently. And then you've got Devon Achane, who does the same thing. So, and then obviously Dave Montgomery. So again, it's very, very similar. It's like you've got a surplus of running backs, but I look at your wide receivers and it's a little weak. And it's like a situation where I would go, personally, I would try to go for a situation where I would package together someone like in Austin Eckler, to be honest with you. I love Eckler, and I think that he's going to be great moving forward, but I see Christian McCaffrey, he's locked and loaded. I see David Montgomery for the playoffs, locked and loaded. Schedule is fantastic, and he is just rolling on this offense right now. You know, I would either package together Austin Eckler or David Montgomery with Puka Nacua or Noah Brown to get massive wide receiver return. I'm actually leaning towards packaging together Montgomery now that I'm thinking about it, because there always is the potential, I guess, that Jahmyr Gibbs could have the better second half of the season. So I do see that potential right there. So I'll tell you this. What I would do personally is I would take David Montgomery, I would take Puka Nacua, and I would try to upgrade to a wide receiver like Amon-Ra St. Brown, like Stephon Diggs, like Jamar Chase. That's the move I'm making this time. So I think that, you're also in a situation where you've got two tight ends, and I don't think that McBride's upside is that high. What I would do personally with McBride is no, you're good, actually. You're good. Go for the big air, because you're 7-3. You've got so much talent on your team as it is. So your running back position, you're at a massive surplus. You can afford to lose one of those guys. Like, even if one of them goes down, let's say, God forbid, Christian McCaffrey goes down to injury, you're still going to have Eckler there. You're still going to have Achane there. You're still going to have Breece Hall there. So I would personally go package Montgomery and go for massive air and package them together with Puka Nacua and get one of those wide receivers I discussed. And again, I appreciate the super chat. So real quick, I'm going to pause. I'm answering week 11 fantasy football questions for those of y'all just joining. So please do me a favor. Go down there, drop a like on this live stream, and subscribe to the channel to show your support. And guys, I'm trying to answer as many questions as I can, but obviously you see how full the chat is. So the best way to get your question answered is to do a super chat donation. That's the way to jump the line. So again, appreciate y'all being here, regardless of if you donate or not. Appreciate y'all being here. And real quick, I saw a comment. Woods Girl, if you're still in here, you actually did win an FFN hat. I actually randomly selected you earlier today. So go back, make sure you check all your comments, because I definitely replied to you and said that you were a winner. So everybody here, make sure to check your comments, over the last couple of videos, because I have commented to a lot of people over the day that I've already given away a lot of hats, and I haven't gotten a lot of replies. So make sure to check your comments on my last couple of videos to make sure that I haven't picked you, because not only have I already given away a lot, but I'm giving away many, many more. So make sure to keep up with all of the comments that you are giving and I'm replying to. So Keith Tapp, what's going on? I appreciate the super chat. Howell, Fields, Aaron Jones, Javonte, Sun God, Kupp, Mark Andrews, Deontay, bench is Ty Chandler, Khalil Herbert, Amon-Ra St. Brown, one quarterback, one flex, 10-man PPR, first placed, 7-3. That's fantastic. I mean, as far as this week goes, there's no changes I would make. I mean, Aaron Jones, I don't love him this week, to be honest with you. It's a situation where it's like, this particular week, I don't see how you can make any big changes, to be honest with you. I think that you're in a good situation this particular week. You're kind of in a little bit of a reverse situation, actually, where your wide receiver upside is greater than your running back upside right now. Aaron Jones is a worry for me right now. And I discussed it a little bit on my running back rankings video today. It's a potential issue, but I just want to answer that part. Who to start? Other players are on buys. I think that Howell. Okay, so I think that personally, I would go with Sam Howell this week against the Giants, and just with the fact that I have no faith in Justin Fields coming off the injury, and with a team that's not good taking on the Detroit Lions. I need to see it first before I can play him in most situations. So I would go with Howell this week. Definitely go with Javonte, and I would go with Aaron Jones over Khalil Herbert and Ty Chandler. Obviously, you're going to start Sun God. You're going to start Kupp. You're going to start Andrews. I would start Deontay over Amari Cooper this week. And it's actually depressing because on my wide receiver rankings video this week, I said it's a situation where I wish that I wish that we had confirmation on Deshaun Watson before I did that video, because obviously he is now out for the season if you have not heard by now. Deshaun Watson will miss the rest of the season. He is getting shoulder surgery. Now, was he playing well? Absolutely not. Not by any stretch of the imagination. Is he better than Dorian Thompson-Robinson? Probably. I won't say for sure, because I do want to see Dorian Thompson-Robinson play, because that's another guy that I went really deep into analysis-wise on my Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide in 2023, and I will have another draft guide in 2024. So make sure to stay tuned for that. That's going to put you over the top if you play Dynasty right there. But yeah, to me this week, I would start Aaron Jones over other running backs in your situation. And then I would start Deontay Johnson at the flex. So I would go Howell, I would go Jones, I would go Javonte, Sun God, Kupp, Mark Andrews, and Deontay Johnson right here. And then obviously you said you have Bijan, so that's a good situation here at the running back position. I would still try to package together an Aaron Jones with an Amari Cooper and see if you could get a wide receiver, a running back upgrade. Try to get somebody like, I think even, it's tough with Aaron Jones, to be honest with you. I think you could possibly get Isaiah Pacheco. There's some people that aren't as high on him. DeAndre Swift, probably not. Brian Robinson, maybe. James Conner, maybe. Those are the guys that I would shoot for to try to upgrade your running back position, because I've got a lot of issues with Aaron Jones moving forward. But again, I appreciate the super chat, Keith Tapp. Daniel McDonough, you were next up. Appreciate the super chat. I have good running back options. Josh Jacobs, Kamara, Achane, and Mostert. Rest of season, what do you think? If all are available, who do you play and flex? Yeah, you're not lying. You've got great running back options. And again, I think that, to me, every league is different, right? And this is why I answer these questions so detailed, is because every league is different, and I recognize that. So, like, in the typical league, you're getting a 2 running back, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex type of league. Now, there are leagues that I am in where it's 2 flex. There's 3 wide receivers. I am in leagues like that. So I just want to make sure that you're in a 1 flex league, because if that's the case, I want to sell one of these running backs, because the bottom line is, if you can't play all 3 of them on a weekly basis, those are points that are going to not only eat you alive, like inside, like on the inside, it's going to eat you up if you have to bench one of these guys. It's a 1 flex. So, yeah, it's a situation where it's like, not only is it going to eat you alive that you're going to see like 20 points on the bench from Kamara or, Devon Achane. It's a situation where it's like, I look at this and there's so much trade value here. Because I'm guessing that your wide receivers aren't as strong. I'm guessing. They may very well be. If that's the case, if your wide receivers are a little uneasy and you're a little uneasy about them, I would package together one of those Miami Dolphins running backs with another wide receiver. And again, go for massive air. Raheem Mostert is better with Devon Achane. Secret there. So it's hard to decide who I prefer out of the Miami Dolphins running backs. I think I do prefer Raheem Mostert, though. I really do. He's better with Devon Achane. He was having massive weeks with Achane. Massive. Yeah, I would package together Achane with a wide receiver and go for massive air. Again, go for a guy like Stephon Diggs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamar Chase. Those are the kind of guys I'm going for to put you over the top. Again, I appreciate the super chat. So we're answering Week 11 fantasy football questions live tonight, guys. I'm trying to get through as many questions as possible, but, you can see how full the chat is right now. So the best way to jump the line is to do a super chat donation. I won't be able to get through all these tonight. So if you do want to hop the line, that is going to be the way to do it right now because I'm starting from the top and going in order. But guys, please like this video, drop a like on it, and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Love being here live with you guys on a Wednesday night, right in the middle of the week as we're making key fantasy decisions because the reality is, guys, it every single week only gets more important from here. That's just the reality. And I wouldn't have it any other way because I love it every minute of it. Impossible. Appreciate the super chat. Half PPR, 4 and 6, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 1 flex. Murray, Justin Herbert, Pacheco, Brian Robinson, Chandler, Bijan, Amon-Ra, Dell, Nico, Lockett, Godwin, Higgins, McBride, and Waller. Need a defense. Jags, Seahawks, Vikings, Bengals, Commanders. Any trades? Okay, so first part of this is need a defense. So let's answer the defense part. So you've got Jags defense, Seahawks, Vikings, Bengals, Commanders. So 1, 2, 3, all 5 of them were in my top 12 defense rankings video. And if you have not seen my top 12 defense ranking video this week, go back and watch it after this video tonight. You'll get a full top 12, and that's going to help you a lot. Put you in the best positional matchups every single week because I do kickers and I do defense rankings every single week to maximize your fantasy potential on a given week. So when I look at all these defenses here, you know, the Jags defense, the Seahawks defense, they're very, very close in my rankings for me. The Jags defense is the move I'm leaning towards right now, to be honest with you. Not much has changed in my defense rankings as of yet, aside from the Pittsburgh Steelers moving 1 spot up to number 2 over the Detroit Lions. Jacksonville, to me, I think just has the most upside. Now, Seattle is right back with them. They're 1 spot behind Jacksonville this week at 8. I think that Tennessee, the way their offense is looking again, there's not much upside, and Jacksonville does get turnovers. They're averaging almost 2 turnovers per game. So upside is there. They had a bad week last week. Again, it's a situation where when I discussed this several times over the past couple days specifically. Do you remember in week 9 when the Chargers played the Jets and the Chargers defense was phenomenal and they won a lot of people weeks? You know, there's an emotional connection that I don't think many fantasy YouTubers discuss this, but I say this because it's important to disconnect your emotions from making decisions in fantasy football because I understand it. Like for years and years, Joe Mixon was a guy I didn't want to draft because he screwed me 1 year. My emotions got in my head and I missed out on a lot of great years from Joe Mixon. So I think it's important for me to come on here and say, don't let emotions drive your decisions. The Los Angeles Chargers last week, first of all, I recommended you don't play the Chargers defense, and I never would have advised playing the Chargers defense because they played the Detroit Lions. Obviously, hindsight's 2020. Go back to all those videos last week. I said, no, don't play the Chargers defense. And I did have a lot of people, a lot of my audience saying, well, you know, they won me a week last week. And I said, understand that defenses are week to week. Now, the reason I bring that up right here is because the Jacksonville Jaguars, you're going to see the same exact reaction, except in the reverse. Jacksonville got negative points this week, same as Detroit. The reality is both Detroit and Jacksonville, much better matchups this week. Jacksonville's taking on the Tennessee Titans after getting stomped by the San Francisco 49ers. They're trying to win that division. How many people think they're just going to roll over? They're not going to do that. So I think Jacksonville coming in, they're pissed. It's a divisional matchup. That's the move I'm making for defense. And the trade ideas for this, you know, you've got 2 high upside quarterbacks. I prefer Justin Herbert over Kyler Murray. I just think his team is better, and they're going to be more competitive for the long stretch. You know, for you to have a chance to make the playoffs here. You're 4 and 6, so you need to keep winning. Pacheco, Brian Robinson, they're pretty good running back options. I would not say that either of them is stable necessarily, but they both have good upside. And then Bijan Robinson, obviously, that's who I would say he's very close to all of them. All of them, none of them really separate from each other. That's the thing. Brian Robinson, I think, is the worst of the bunch on a weekly basis, but acknowledging that he does have big weeks for sure. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Nico, Tank Dell, I love all those receivers. But again, aside from Amon-Ra, you don't have a true stable option at wide receivers. So what I would do here is, first of all, if there's good waiver options, I would drop Darren Waller and pick him up. Because Darren Waller, not only is he hurt right now, he's one of their best offensive players. I would not be surprised if he didn't come back again this year. This is the first time I'm saying it live. It would not surprise me in the slightest if we do not see Darren Waller again in 2023. So I don't think there's any business in holding on to Darren Waller. I think that's dead weight, and you could make up for that with either picking up a defense for next week, like the Chiefs, or picking up a better option on the waiver wire. Like Keaton Mitchell's still out there. So that's what I would do personally with Waller. And then I would try to package together Kyler Murray. And I would try to get him with a guy like Tyler Lockett off a big week. I would try to get him with a guy like maybe Chris Godwin, or I'm going to get pushback for this, but I would package it together with Tank Dell, because Tank Dell, I really like him, but I do still think, and call it stubborn, I'll have to reassess this one weekly, but I still do prefer Nico over Tank Dell. So I think that Tank Dell, you can package him together or package Lockett together with Murray and go for big upside at the wide receiver position. I would try to get, for those two guys, with Murray and with Lockett and with Tank Dell, I think you could get a big upgrade, get a Mike Evans type. I think you could get a big upgrade and get probably Devontae Adams right now. I think getting a Jalen Waddle is a good idea. Those are the types of moves I would make here. Again, I appreciate the super chat here. And then Bo, appreciate the super chat. PPR, White versus San Francisco, or James Conner versus Houston? Great question. They're not far off. If you saw my running back rankings video today, you'll know that they're not far off from each other. I do prefer James Conner. And I'll be honest with you, if Kyler Murray was not back and it was still Clayton Tune or even Josh Dobbs, as much as I like him, he's better in Minnesota. Arizona's team's a mess. Kyler Murray, the reason why I actually am a little bit bigger on James Conner right now is because the guy has a mobile quarterback, and mobile quarterbacks, this is not an opinion. This is straight correlation. Leads to causation right here. Running quarterbacks give running backs much more efficiency. That's not disputable. Look at Jalen Hurts with Miles Sanders last year. Look at him with DeAndre Swift this year. Look at Lamar Jackson with Gus Edwards. Look at him with Keaton Mitchell. Look at him with Justice Hill. Look, there's no question. And so James Conner came right back out there. It was efficient on Sunday, and he looked good. And he's handling the majority of the carries. Matchup is better versus Houston. Their defense is not as good as San Francisco's. So I would go with James Conner versus Houston over Rachaad White. And again, I appreciate the super chat. So let's keep on moving through questions, guys. I've got another 15 minutes that I'm on here. So I'm going to try to get as many questions answered as possible, guys. But you can see how full the chat is. I'm trying to get through as many as I can. But the best way to jump the line is to do a super chat donation to get your question answered immediately. But regardless of if you do, I appreciate you being here. And please like the video to show your support and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already to show your support. Bo, appreciate the super chat. Rachaad White or Nico or Noah Brown or Nico if he plays? This is where it gets tougher. Rachaad White, the matchup is not good in the slightest. Like, this is not a matchup I want. San Francisco, I don't love Rachaad White this week. Now, it's important to remember that actually a lot of Rachaad White's upside comes from the receiving game. not only do they use him as a receiver and actually run him on routes, but he's actually just getting tons of dump offs from Baker Mayfield because Tampa's offensive line, number one, no good. And Baker Mayfield, number two, just not a great quarterback either. So he checks the ball down a lot and he's not that mobile. So Rachaad White, like there's the matchup screams like, I don't like this at all. But I tell you what, man, like Houston's got so much upside with their receiver options. The problem is I really don't know like what to think. I've studied the Houston Texans very closely this season. Very, very closely. And what I can see from Houston is that with Nico Collins and Tank Dell, those were the original two that Houston wanted to be their top two. And Nico Collins had some big weeks and Tank Dell had some big weeks. They both had big weeks. Now, Nico Collins a couple weeks ago gets injured in the game versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Or not the Bengals. It was against Tampa Bay. And Nico Collins was on his way to having a great fantasy game. Scored early, was getting targeted. He was on his way to a great fantasy game. Started getting pulled out because he injured himself. And that's when Noah Brown took advantage of his opportunity. To his full credit, by the way. Like, I love to see a player take advantage of the opportunity. And he did exactly that. When he got the opportunity, dude snatched it up, didn't look back. 2 straight weeks, 150 plus yards. But the question remains for me, which is that Houston, how much of it is going to look at? Okay, great example of this. Think about Zach Moss right now with Indianapolis. The past 2 weeks, Zach Moss's workload has not only decreased, it's fallen off a cliff. He got 1 touch last week against the Patriots in a competitive matchup, might I add. Competitive to the very end. Literally got phased out, and that was after, like, he was a stud. He was a stud. Right? Like, there was no argument with, like, how good he was playing. He was a great player for them. But they still benched him. That's just the reality of how the league goes. When a coach makes a decision on who they want to see, they want to see that guy. Now, it's a little bit different, and here's the difference here. The difference between the two is that Nico Collins is not on a multi-million-dollar contract extension over a couple-year period. Nico Collins is still on his rookie contract, and he was I don't remember what round he was, either 3rd or 4th. So they're not paying him much. He's done very well for them this year, though. It's so difficult, to be honest with you. I really do think that if Nico Collins plays, I'll play him because the matchup upside is there with Arizona. And I really prefer not to play Rachaad White in this matchup versus San Francisco because I just don't think that this run defense is going to allow much from Tampa Bay. So I will go ahead and play Nico if he plays. And if he doesn't play, I will play Noah Brown. I have to. Noah Brown, if there's no Nico, he's a must start this week. Easily. No question about it. So, but if Nico does go, I do prefer Nico over Noah Brown this week. Now, full disclosure, this may be one where I come out looking completely dumb. Dumb. And we will have a come to Jesus moment because I will have to reassess Nico Collins, who I've been big on all season. But the reality is, dude's been good for him longer than Noah Brown has been good for them. And mind you, Nico Collins has had massive games this year. It's not just Noah Brown. So I'll go Nico if he plays, Noah Brown if he doesn't. Appreciate the super chat. Caden Cortez, you were the next one up. Appreciate the super chat. Rachaad White or Ty Chandler, full PPR. Yeah, I'll go with Rachaad White here. This is a situation where I will go with Rachaad White because the workload just better. This is neither of these guys are. I wouldn't say either of them are super high upside for different reasons. Rachaad White's not a super high upside guy because he's not efficient. The offensive line stinks. Like, you look at his efficiency numbers, he's averaging less than 4 yards per carry. And you could say, well, maybe that's the offensive line's problem. And I don't entirely disagree with you. But what we do have to realize is that he did the same thing last year. Didn't average 4 yards per carry. So he's just not that efficient of a player. And against the 49ers this week, not a good matchup. Ty Chandler, the matchup is 100% there. 100. So I really, really like the matchup here against the Broncos. Dead last in run defense. Just saying. They're awful at defending the run. And they just gave up tons to James Cook on Monday night. The problem what I see with Minnesota and Ty Chandler, though, is that Minnesota is not an offense that wanted to run the ball anyways. They have not run the ball much this season at all. In fact, let me pull it up right now. They're close to dead last in rushing attempts this year. Let me pull it up right here. Bear with me for a second. I'm looking up the total rushing attempts per team this year. Let's see if I can find that number right now. Let's go with rushing yards. Minnesota Vikings are 5th worst as far as rush. They have the 5th fewest amount of rushing yards in the entire NFL right now. The only teams below them, this is going to be interesting. Las Vegas is one spot below them. Minnesota has 857 rushing yards. Las Vegas has 833. Carolina is 3rd worst at 813. Tampa Bay, 2nd fewest with 703. And Cincinnati was 673. So there really isn't much upside with each player, to my point, because neither team wants to run the ball that much. They prefer to have their quarterbacks throw the ball. I got to go with White, though, because White does see more targets than Ty Chandler. And I will acknowledge that on my running back rankings video, this is not, there's no secret. It's public. I put it out there. I did say that Ty Chandler could have a big week, but I also did say that the floor is extraordinarily low. So just be careful about that for sure. But again, I appreciate the super chat. JV, what's going on? You were next up. Appreciate the super chat. 4 flex, Deontay Johnson, Ty Chandler, Singletary, or Reed. So, okay, so you're saying 4 flex, not the number 4 flex. Okay, I was confused for a second. I was like, there's your answer. You answered your own question. But no, I see what you're saying. If we're only picking one guy. So I look at Deontay Johnson, awful last week. And this is the problem I have with Deontay Johnson. I watched the Steelers. I have watched this every single Steelers game I've watched since I was about 6 or 7 years old. I don't miss Steelers games. It's not my DNA. For those of you who are new, I'm a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. Most of my dad's side of the family still resides in Pittsburgh area. And so it runs in my blood. You know what I mean? I'm a Yinzer, who was born and raised in Texas. We're the only part of our family in Texas. And the reality is that being a Steelers fan, being a fan of a team and being a fantasy analyst, you have to be able to, again, cut emotions out. Cut emotions out of the deal, because my priority is being a great fantasy analyst as I can for my audience, you guys. So when I look at the Steelers, the problem with them is that Kenny Pickett's not a good quarterback. He's just not. He can't consistently feed weapons. And George Pickens is taking a backseat to Deontay. And even with that, Deontay still didn't do nothing. He had a nothing burger last week. He had it it was just bad. So Deontay Johnson, I don't think is as good as everybody thinks, especially against the Browns defense this week. Not a good matchup. Ty Chandler, I would actually play Ty Chandler over Deontay Johnson. I would. Devin Singletary or Jaden Reed. Devin Singletary to me, I said this on my running back rankings video today. Great week indeed, for sure, for Devin Singletary. But the problem with him is that this is a guy that, he's on a team that, aside from last week, there was zero upside in that backfield. None at all. No upside. So I have a problem with Singletary this week because Arizona on paper, good matchup, but at the same time, I don't think it's likely that he's going to repeat the same thing, especially if Dameon Pierce comes back, which is a possibility if he does. When I look at Jaden Reed, that's a guy I like. I do like Jaden Reed. Highlighted him. definitely went in on him as a sleeper in my Dynasty rookie draft guide. Again, if you play Dynasty, that draft guide that I'm going to be coming out with next year is going to put you over the top. I study these rookies as soon as the season's over. So I look at Jayden Reed. It's close with him and Ty Chandler. I would go with Ty Chandler, though, personally, because, like I said, this is where all of their ceilings are no good. So at that point, it becomes who's got the highest upside. In this matchup versus Denver, no Alexander Madison. I've got Ty Chandler having the most upside. Again, appreciate the super chat. Jason Rodriguez, appreciate the super chat. 12-team PPR, 8-2. Tua, Achane, Pollard, Diggs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, McBride, Olave. Bench, Najee, Hunt, Keaton Mitchell, Charbonnet, and Dowdle. Offer Diggs, Najee, Hunt for Tyreek Hill. Time to grab DeMario, Noah Brown, Zay Jones, Gibson, drop a running back or two. So you offered Diggs, Najee, and Hunt for Tyreek, which, by the way, love that. I didn't say Reed, but he is available. Also Cooks. Okay, appreciate that part of that right there. Jayden Reed is definitely an interesting option. Here's the thing. So you offered Diggs, Najee, and Hunt for Tyreek Hill. Obviously, that's a great trade idea. I love that trade idea, and I hope it goes through for you. I hope it does work out for you. When I look at this situation, it's like Demario Douglas, he's definitely got a floor of a guy who's going to be a wide receiver, a back end wide receiver 2, relatively high end wide receiver 3. That's what we're looking at here with a guy like Demario Douglas, because the offense is just atrocious in New England. Noah Brown, definitely the most intrigued to me, because the reality is, like I said, however this ends up shaking out in Houston, I want at least one of those wide receivers, at least one of them. CJ Stroud has proved himself as a fantastic fantasy player. That's just the bottom line. So I want at least one of those Houston wide receivers. To me, I really like the potential of a guy like Jayden Reed. I'm a Jayden Reed guy. Have been since I scouted him for years ago. I've liked Jayden Reed. I think that ultimately, when it comes down to the passing upside, though, Jayden Reed doesn't have CJ Stroud. He's got Jordan Love. There's a ceiling there. CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans, they're competing for the freaking playoffs. So they're going to be important for you down the stretch. And again, Noah Brown may go back to the bench. I wouldn't think he would, but there's a possibility he does. But even with that possibility, the upside is stupid high, as you have seen over the past 2 weeks. I got to advise you to take Noah Brown off the waivers, because the guy has just the most upside. I would drop, for me personally, I look at this roster, and if you don't get this trade to go through, I would personally drop Rico Dowdle for Noah Brown. That's what I would personally do here. I'm looking at this situation again too, and I'm like, would I also drop? You're so bench heavy with running backs. It's like it makes sense to drop at least one of them. Yeah, the guy I would go for is Noah Brown here, and I would drop Rico Dowdle to do it. Again, I appreciate the super chat. Is Clay 32? Appreciate the super chat. 12-team PPR. Trade Derrick Henry for DK or Devontae. So, in my buy low video this week, I discussed Derrick Henry as a buy low candidate. I think he's a great buy low candidate. And the reason is because, and I said this in the video as well. I said, listen, you can't, at this point in the season, you can't just have a guy that has one bad game and people are like, oh, he's a disaster zone now. If he's been pretty good and he gives you one bad game, you can't convince somebody that he's lower value. You can do that at the beginning of the season when nobody has information. But at this point in week 11, you can't do that. Well, the good thing about Henry is that he's had multiple single-digit games this year. And an abnormal amount for him. So I think he's a good buy low kind of guy, personally. But I look at this situation and it's like you're at a point where DK Metcalf, there's no way I'm trading Derrick Henry for him. Derrick Henry gets a more consistent workload, and also he's just got more consistent upside being that bell cow. And by the way, I talked about this on my buy low video as well. Tennessee, specifically Derrick Henry's playoff schedule, it's fantastic. So I don't want to get rid of him, especially. Davante Adams, I would consider it, though. I do think that Davante Adams is about to have a resurgence because not only did he get 14 targets last week against the New York Jets, but Antonio Pierce, the interim head coach right now, said, it's funny. He said, I'm not stupid. Of course we're going to target Davante Adams. So he not only was it a shot across the bow at Josh McDaniels, who's gone now, but it was also a situation where it's like, we got to get this guy the ball. And the reality is, like, it's easy to look back at Davante Adams' past 4 games and then that one on the night before, and it's like, how high is the upside really? I'll tell you this, it's still freaking high. It is. The upside is still 20 to 30-point games. Reality is, the Jets defense, they're the best secondary in football. They're the best at stopping wide receivers, specifically because Sauce Gardner follows whoever's their wide receiver one. So, yeah, Davante Adams had a down game. 14 targets, though, you're not seeing that many places. I think that his upside is still there. And to be honest with you, like, depending on if you're good at running back, like if you've got 2 other very startable options and you've got already one game changer as one of them, I would say that this is a situation I would do it. But if you're struggling with running backs right now, I would say be careful of doing that because I do think that, you don't want to give up too many running backs. But if you're good at running back and you've got more of an issue at wide receiver, I would do Derrick Henry for Davante Adams. And again, I appreciate the super chat. Next question, Bo. Appreciate the super chat. Zay Flowers versus Cincinnati or Ty Chandler, Addison. Half-point PPR, give me 2. Okay, give you 2. So, yeah, I find it hard to give you both of those Minnesota options. And against Denver, like the upside of the matchup is definitely there, but I find it hard to do that because the reality is that I think you've got a situation where neither one of these guys are going to be the main option. Like Justin Jefferson's back, like if he comes back, and I don't know if he is. We don't have enough information yet. But if he's back, like neither of these guys, both of them are going to take a back seat to Justin Jefferson. So there's not really a bunch of upside there with both of them. Now, the one I prefer out of them is actually Ty Chandler this week because Denver's running defense is horrendous. They can't stop a nosebleed. So I would go with Ty Chandler above Jordan Addison this week. And then I'm going to have to go with Zay Flowers versus Cincinnati because, like I said, the problem that you're seeing here is that Justin Jefferson very well might play, right? And I kind of expect him to. But the problem is you don't have the luxury of Zay Flowers playing on Sunday as well. Zay Flowers is playing Thursday night. So you have to make a decision. I would go with Zay Flowers, and I would go with Ty Chandler. And again, I appreciate the super chat. We answered Jason Rodriguez. D. Manini Sweener, appreciate the super chat. Added you on Twitter, answer on stream. Yeah, like I said, I'm definitely happy to answer your question right now. I'm about to sign off as well. So if you've got your question right here, and if you want to put it in right now, that's totally fine. But yeah, I'll go specifically. I'll tell you what, I'll go specifically as soon as I turn off this stream. I'll go to my Twitter account and I'll look at what you DM'd me, and then we'll go from there. So we'll go ahead and do that here. And then I'm going to go ahead and sign off for tonight, guys. This was a great session answering Week 11 fantasy football questions, guys. Obviously, what we've got coming up tomorrow on Thursday, kicker ranking video, tight end ranking video. And then on Friday, we're going to have must start and sit defenses video. And we're also going to have I'm actually going to post a poll. And actually, while we're in here, if you guys want to answer this, I'm actually curious. I'm debating on which video comes first. So over the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks actually, I'm going to be giving out more and more playoff prepared videos. So this week I'm debating, which one do y'all want to see first? Which one do y'all need? Do you need the top defenses for the fantasy playoffs video on Friday, or would you rather have the top wide receivers for the fantasy playoffs on Friday? Let me know what you think. Please let me know in the chat below if you're here, and I'm also going to post a post about that. Real quick, I got another super chat. Rock out, appreciate it. Ferguson or Chandler, flex full PR. Yeah, I'll go with Chandler here because Chandler, I think the upside is greater. With a guy like Ferguson, like as good as he's been, and like I appreciate having Jake Ferguson at the tight end position right now. If he's not getting in the end zone, there's not a lot of upside. I see plenty of upside here for Ty Chandler, and they're both going to have roughly around the same amount of workload. So I'll go ahead and go with Ty Chandler at the flex position. And again, I appreciate the super chat. But yeah, guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign off for the night. Kicker ranking video tomorrow. Tight end video on Thursday. Friday, defense must start or sit. And then Saturday, the normal start or sit videos. And then, of course, Sunday morning, we will be live right now. Guys, I appreciate y'all being in here. Manifest Metal Roofing. I appreciate the super chat. I got to hang around to see what your question is here. So I will give you a minute here. Woods Girl says, would like to see playoff wide receivers video first. So, yeah, let me know, guys, while I'm still here. On Friday, I'm debating. What do y'all want to see? I want to know what you guys want to see. Do you want to see on Friday, first up, do you want to see the defense ranking video for the fantasy playoffs, or do you want to see the wide receiver ranking video for the playoffs? Let me know in the chat below. I'm also going to post a community post about that later on. Manifest Metal Roofing. Best trade prop to get Diggs so I can stack with Allen. Opponent needs running back help. Full PPR, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 tight end, 1 flex. Have Gibbs, Mostert, Breece Hall, Keaton Mitchell, Foreman, Nico Collins, DeAndre Hopkins, Cortland Sutton, Noah Brown, Boyd, Mandrews, and Goddard right here. So, yeah, if you wanted to get a guy like Stephon Diggs and he needs running back help, the good thing is Stephon Diggs, not only is he coming off a bad performance in fantasy football, he's actually coming off a couple that weren't as bad as on week 10, but they were not up to par. So when I look at a guy like this, it's like I like the fact that he's actually coming off a bad situation, and there's a lot of uncertainty in the air in Buffalo right now, lots of it. So tons of uncertainty in the air with Buffalo right now makes Stephon Diggs a little unattractive. Now, again, it's kind of like the reverse of what I was talking about with Derrick Henry, which is that with Derrick Henry, like he's given you several single-digit games this year. Stephon Diggs hasn't had that problem. He's still averaging about 17 fantasy points per game. So he's done great still. I don't really have a problem with getting Stephon Diggs, especially if you're trying to stack him with Allen. And by the way, like Ken Dorsey being gone could be good or bad. I don't really know. I'm kind of leaning towards good, though, to be honest with you. But I like the upside. And so we need to throw some at this guy, and he needs a running back. So I would personally package together. You know, you've got good upside running backs. You've got Gibbs, obviously. You've got Mostert. You've got Breece. Now, Gibbs I want to keep for sure because the upside with Gibbs in the offense and with the playoff schedule, I love it. So I loved having Gibbs there. And Mostert and Breece, to be honest with you, like Mostert's definitely going to have the more trade value. And I really don't think that Breece Hall is going to be as bad of an option. Like he's going to be – it's a situation where with Raheem Mostert, I look at a guy who has got clear – when I'm looking at Breece Hall, it's like I'm looking at a guy who's got a very good playoff schedule. There's no question about it. Like he was one of my favorite running backs for the playoffs when I was looking at schedules for several weeks. So I like the upside that Breece has. I would personally package together Raheem Mostert, and I would package him together with a guy like Cortland Sutton, and or package him together with maybe DeAndre Hopkins. If you have to do Nico, I would, because you're going to get Stephon Diggs out of the deal. But, to be honest with you, like the move I would make first, I would try to package together Raheem Mostert with Courtland Sutton, DeAndre Hopkins. Try to do that straight up. And then if not, try to do it with Nico. And if he doesn't do that straight up, I would bend. And I would do it I would personally do it for Dallas Goedert if you wanted Dallas Goedert. I would, that's a situation where I would go with get rid of one of those tight ends because they're both high upside tight ends. So that's what I would do personally. I would look to get the running back, Mostert, great upside, lots of it, just doesn't have, just has the most trade value. And then I would package them together with a Sutton or a D-Hop prior, that's what I want to do and try to get Diggs. Because right now, like I said, I think you should go in, personally, I think you should go in with Mostert and either Sutton or D-Hop by themselves, because that can be a discussion. Hey, listen, Stephon Diggs has not had a ceiling lately. It's a reality. They just fired their offensive coordinator. What do you think is really down the line for him? That's what I communicate when I do trades. I'm a very heavy communicator. I communicate and negotiate on every trade I make, basically, because I'm trying to get the best deal for me. And you want to make you want to make your opponent feel like you're doing it to benefit them. And you do to a certain point want to benefit them so you can keep doing business with them. But, when I look at that situation, it's like no question, I think you can make it happen with just two of them. And if he wants to get really greedy, then I would go in with, Goddard as backup. But I think you could try it with Sutton and D-Hop first. If he doesn't go for that, do it with Nico first. And then last case scenario, you go with the tight end. All right, guys. And again, I appreciate the super chat. Manifest Metal Roofing. It is much appreciated. The $50 right there. That is very generous, and I really appreciate it. So, all right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign out for the night, guys. So thank you all so much for being in here tonight. Please like the video on your way out and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. And I will see you guys in tomorrow's videos. Peace.